What up? We're back. We're in scripture. We're doing it. Here's the supplies for the full tutorial. Got some clamps, just in case we need them. The big clamp, X-Acto knife, little piece of foam. You know, we got some fur, feathers, and some colored feathers, purple, white, colors that work good. At least for me in my area. Not so sure about yours, but I'm just combining a super lure for myself. And I will be using some super glue for the thread. Which, is just going to match the feathers. And then we got, super lac to use at the very end. And then some scissors, clamps of different sizes. You never know what you might need. Sharp knife. This foam, I don't know if I'm going to use it over top of this clamp piece, but we'll see what's up. So, just in case anybody is actually wondering, this foam is liner for silkscreen. I used to print t-shirts, so I had a whole bunch left over. So that's what I use. So we'll get this cleared out of the way. I'll point out that I think I saved everybody the trouble. The original video was probably, I think it was 2 hours, an hour and 57. So I put it in double time and redid all the audio just to save you some time. I don't know. In the future, I think I want to do a live stream. I think that might be fun if enough people are into it. And you can also have input on how I put it together, or different aspects of how it will look as we go along. But here I'm going to try something different with this lure. Since it's going to be a full tutorial, I thought I'd make a lot of aspects different. I got this stupid clasp that I always use, but this blade here I like. It's UV reflective. That's always fun. And I'm going to use a bullet weight at the front, add a lot more weight, and a whole bunch of chain attachments to give a really loose tail end. And conveniently, these beads have hollow back ends, so the front fits well, the back tucks into the back of the bullet weight, which is gonna fit real nice. And then I'll probably pack that up with some thread, maybe do a little special design in there. But here with the clasp, I'll talk about why I use that later, but pretty much it's always a spare piece when I cut stuff up, so why not? Might as well not waste no parts. So I'm going to do something different today and attach the fur to the hook separately. So that's one reason why I got the clasp. So I'm just going to go in and cut a little piece of this fur off. Leave it attached to the skin. It just makes everything so much easier. I'm not going to get all difficult with this tail piece, but I'm going to... It's a little bit trim, always a little extra, falls off. So got a garbage can beside me here, so I just throw all the spare pieces in the trash. Now I'm just going to take this hook and feed it into the back, and the skin is going to hold everything in place and make it so much easier when attaching this. Let me know what you think about the live stream thing. I think that'd be fun. I don't know. You could do a lot of input. You could even do it with me, just gather up some pieces. But as you can see here, we're just gonna hold the skin over the end of the hook. Now I use these clamps to attach to the string to add a little weight, so when I am wrapping it around, it keeps it tight and it's not all loose and flimsy. So I'm just gonna put a little drop of glue on the end here, make sure that string stays in place. Rub it around a little bit, spindle that up. So this is going to be probably part 1 of 3. This first part is going to be mostly beginner stuff, just getting everything worked up to where a lot more discussion will happen about how the feathers get laid on for different types of looks, detail, and how it pulls through the water. But we're going to go back to here and tuck this on, put the thread on first. Obviously that's going to make it a hell of a lot easier when you start wrapping it around. You just pull it out to one spot, give it a good wrap, apply those pliers, give a little bit of weight, hold everything in place. Just make sure it's all centered when you do that. And I wrapped it kind of tight, but not too tight. I go in later because everything moves around a lot while you're pulling everything tight because it's hair. It's not like the feathers, they kind of stay in place better. The hair just moves all over the place. So I don't do the first layer very tight enough to hold everything in place so it doesn't slip off when I start cutting off the skin part. But I'll just go in and then wrap a few times, make sure that it's all spaced out properly, looks good before I start cutting. But I'll drop a little bit of glue in there, still hold this thread in place while I cut. And then there might be a chance that I might backtrack back from this point and get even tighter down. And this portion here will be just cut off anyways, so we won't even be using that. So I'll just rip it because I'm not concerned about what's happening here. Not too bad. Just a little daggly tail, I'm going to cut that off. We'll get going here. Not too bad. It'll look good dangling from the lure. Hopefully it has its own action and all. That's the intention here, is to have this little tailpiece hook kind of move on its own from hopefully what the lure will do when it gets pulled through the water. It is jointed, so I'll be jerking it a lot. I love jerking the jointed now. I never used to, but kind of got hooked on it. Guess more experience with the spinners gave me more confidence to get crazy with the jointeds. So I cut that back. Then I'm going to spindle up a good piece over top. Now this is a good instance to have a strong clamp because I am going to do exactly what I did say. I'm going to back up a little bit from where I did tie my first piece so that I can get everything even more tighter, held closer to the hook. And then I'll just end up trimming down and off that piece that I use to hold everything in place. Because I'm telling you, man, this hair, when you're attaching a good amount, it just moves all over the place. And you can kind of see that in this footage as I get tighter, it just fans out more and more. That should be good. String broke. I guess I was a little too aggressive, but that happens. Drop a little piece of glue in there, hold everything in place. And it's a little drop. I'm not using much at all. But I will do a little bit more on this one here because I will be chopping it down. But it looks not too bad. Everything's held tight. Get a little trim there. We'll see what's popping here. I don't really think that the thread that I'm going to throw in here is going to make much of a difference. So I'll probably just stick with this cream color, because I'll be using white and purple as the longer feathers on the main portion, so it'll look fine, I guess. I could have done it purple. I didn't want to do it red because not really much red on it. But you gotta trim up nicely to the hook, to the eye there. Make sure that it's fully exposed. And also that when I'm going to apply glue all up in the butt end there, and it soaks right into the full end and seals it, almost like cement. So it works out really nice. That took a while to get a hang of. But you can see here I'm just dripping it in to the exposed tips that I've cut, and it absorbs right in. This shit dries so fast, you gotta be really careful not to glue your fingers together, which I've done more than once. Nail polish remover works good to get your fingers unstuck once you have actually gotten a really good stick to it. But the super glue doesn't dry as fast when you put it on the hair, so you have more time to start wrapping, and it absorbs into the string as you're wrapping around, so you're getting a complete bond happening. As long as you act fast, you're not lazing around, then you'll get a good join. Good seal there. Make sure that none of the center hairs attached to the hook or anything are not glued and will just fall right out. So I'll just trim these excess pieces of string off, and then I'll probably add a little bit more glue on here. Just seal everything up nicely on the ends so that the thread doesn't move around. That's going to be buried. Whoa, look at that. What a catch. So we'll glue that in there. So we're going to attach this back on to the lure, which made it a lot easier since this clasp was there to attach all of this fur, which I guess it wouldn't have been that much harder. It just would have been dangling around as I was trying to spin it. Not bad though. Looking tight. So I'm going to go in on this clasp piece and wrap a little bit of thread around the two openings. If you know what type of clasp this is, you'll know exactly how this is working and closing the opportunity of these ever opening up again. For me, that's fine. I don't plan to change the trailer hook on this or the hook, but maybe for somebody else who wants to change hooks around, you know, I wouldn't have used this clasp, or you could, but there's a chance, I guess, that a fish could bite hard enough to somehow open the clasp and then get crazy aggressive and wiggle that hook out. That'd be crazy. I almost glued my fingers together there. Not bad. Unstuck them pretty quickly. When that shit gets on your fingers, man, it feels hot, so you'll know when it's on there. So I'll trim that up. Not too bad. So that clasp is closed for good. And we're going to move on to add a little bit of the tail end feathers here. I was going to attach that foam piece, but I decided not to. I kind of want these larger feathers to hug the lure a little bit more over top of that fur instead of doing their own little thing. Mostly it's just filling in color, making a body look. So I'll go through here and pick out good ones, good thin ones. I don't want thick ones because then they just take up too much and take away detail. The thin ones add detail. Now you could argue the fact that, you know, is a fish going to see the detail? Well, I'm going to say yeah, only through the fact that why else would there be painted lures that are so well detailed if they didn't think that that detail mattered? So that's my theory on that. I'll go full out on the detail. Every little bit matters to me. I hope it matters to the fish. I hope they like the presentation. I definitely get good reactions from the fish in my area. Might be because they don't see stuff like this very often, or it could just be because they're always hungry. One or the other. So I just wanted to show this portion here just so there's no misleading of what was going on. I did say I wanted to show everything. Some of you asked for it, got it in comments. I appreciate it. I wanted to do this, but kind of wanted somebody else to want it to happen as well. So it was very long, like I said at the beginning, but we trimmed her down. It'll be shorter. So here I'm just lining it up, seeing how it fits over, exactly the length that I want. And I'll pull back some of the feathers here to expose a little end. That will be the piece that I use. And I'll just probably go in stages of 3 with these. Like always, maybe probably 3 each in a bundle. I don't want to have too much going on with the tail. More detail is going to be in episode 2, part 2. So this is pretty much just the basics. All these feathers will be face in, so they'll just be lying down flat. No bucked out action here. They're just going to fall in place nicely. So I'll trim these up. And on this one, like I said, these tails are going to hold into the body, like tight. So it kind of gives it more of a full look. Now I have done a lot of other lures where the inside is short and the outside is what's long. Now that gives a more of like an octopus look as it flows through the water, because the outside feathers are now not touching the inside feathers as they flow. So it definitely gives it a really different look, but I don't know, you can't get the type of detail that you can get when you're making it look more like a body as opposed to the inside being somewhat hollow. I guess that's just me. I really like to go for the detail. So, I don't know. It'd probably work better if I stuck to the octopus look, because that's what the rubbers always look like when you pull them through the water. But we're going to finish trimming all these up. Let's get them into place. I'm going to skip over this step later when I do it with the finer feathers, so that I won't bore you with that. Now, I think I just wanted to point out, as I'm doing this, before we end part one here, that as we do move on, I will be talking a lot more about how to attach in different ways and what I have learned in my experiences doing so. So I hope you'll stay tuned to part two, where we'll attach this first layer of tail and see how this is going to look as it comes together. It's pretty long, super jointed. Hopefully we get a real good flow in the look here. So stay tuned. Part two coming up.